Welcome to the home for the Tentative Yogi, where you will learn tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to learn yoga safely from the foundation so that you can enjoy it for years to come. If you've ever been hesitant about learning yoga for whatever reason, or you've ever been in a class where you felt really lost, well, here's where you want to be. Welcome home. In this video, I'm going to share with you all about yoga blankets. We are going to talk about what yoga blankets you should purchase if you want to purchase them, and I'm going to share with you 5 ways that I use yoga blankets in my own practice. You are going to love this. Now, if you're wondering, do I really need yoga props? Then you definitely want to check out this video. I did a quick summary on why I believe in yoga props, but also why you might not need yoga props. So definitely check that out. And then if you're enjoying this, definitely check out my other 2 videos I did on yoga props, one on blocks and one on straps. Now, if you just want someone to just say this is what you want to order, click below. I got a website where I put all of my very favorite props out there and why I got them, etc. You can go there, click, and you are in a one-stop shopping zone. Okay, so let's start by talking about what you need to buy. There are generally 2 different materials that blankets are made out of. One is cotton and the other is wool. Now there's all sorts of polyfibers as well. I recommend as much 100% wool or cotton as you can because they're going to be more supportive. We want as much lift as we can get because then we have to buy fewer, right? If you have a blanket that doesn't give you much lift, you're going to need 2, where one really thick one would do the job. Now, let me first say, how many you need depends on what you're going to be practicing. If you are going to do restorative, you're ultimately going to need 3, and I'll talk about which ones in a moment. If you are going to be doing regular hatha yoga, if you will, 1 will probably be enough for you. Eventually, you're going to want to have 2, okay? If you're working with me, 1 blanket for my regular hatha classes. If you're going to be doing restorative with me, you want a minimum of 2, but ultimately you'll want 3. So if you can swing the 3 right now, go for it. So let's first talk about the wool blanket. The wool blanket is very thick and very supportive. This one was bought actually from a true Army surplus store. This is an Army surplus blanket. I don't know if they're available anymore, but you certainly can get these off yoga supply stores and Amazon. And again, you can click below to find my favorite ones as well. This one is nice and thick. It's also not really itchy. It's not scratchy, which I really have a problem with wool. It's one of the reasons I recommend having a cotton one as well, though, is because you can cover your pile with a cotton so that it's not right up against your skin on your face. But this one is pretty soft, and I do find that most of them are soft enough to the touch, and I'm very sensitive, so just so you know. So if you're going to be doing restorative, I recommend at least 1 wool one, if not 2, and then a cotton one. Now, here's the thing with cotton ones, and actually this is true for wool too. They are not all made the same. This is actually a true Mexican blanket bought in Mexico on a yoga retreat. This is a really nice thick one. Okay, I got it in my hot little hands on my hot little retreat, and it was fantastic because I knew exactly what I was getting. I find a lot of my students buy the blankets off the websites, and they get them, and they're really thin and they're really flimsy, and they're not going to give them the support they need. I do find 100% cotton is usually good enough. Okay, but just so you know, I know you can't really tell, it should feel substantial. If you get it and it feels cheap, return it right away. Don't even bother with it. Stick with it until you get a really nice thick one. Now, if you're only going to get 1 blanket, I recommend a really good cotton one, because then you're not going to have scratchiness on your face if you're laying on it. This is a good one. If you're going to be doing restorative, 1 wool, 1 cotton, preferably, if you can swing it, 2 wool and 1 cotton. All right? So that's enough about what to buy. Now let's talk about my 5 favorite ways to use blankets in my own practice. So how we use the blanket in our practice, like what is its purpose? It usually is to support the body, to get it into better alignment, or to keep it from feeling uncomfortable. Stick with me. I'll talk about I'll help you understand what I mean. So the first thing I want to show you is using it in seated poses. The first pose I want to show you is Sukhasana. So there is a lot of controversy around Sukhasana in particular, around cross-legged positions, whether or not you need a blanket. I already did a video on the controversy around Sukhasana, so just go ahead and click here if you're really going, well, why would there be a controversy? And I talk all about it there. But what I want you to see here is how it shifts me when I come up onto a blanket. And I'm going to slightly exaggerate it so that you can really get an idea of how most people are in this pose. This pose is actually pretty easy for me. So going from here, coming up, and actually I take it a little bit higher. Do you see the difference in the spine? It's really nice. So the next one I want to show you is also a seated pose, and that's Dandasana. So Dandasana is bringing your legs out, staff pose. And the challenge here is you've got to be really open in your hamstrings to get up on top of the sit bones. If you don't have a lift, I can't even do this. You have to be able to get to at least 90 degrees. I am really rounded here. I know it doesn't look like it necessarily. It's hard to see with the eye, but I can definitely feel it. When I lift up, and I actually need to go up a little higher again, then I open up to maybe 100 degrees, and it's much easier on my body to be in this position. And that's going to be true for most practitioners out there. So the next way I like to use a yoga blanket is for back bend over roll. Now, here, this is a pose that you just can't do if you don't have a blanket. And that is literally roll the blanket up. I call this one God's gift to people who practice yoga. And you're going to lay over it so it hits right at the base of your shoulder blades and then go back down. It can be pretty intense initially. Can you see where it is? But as you relax, it starts to feel really, really good. All right, the next way I like to use the blanket is also a nice relaxing pose. It's called Viparita Karani, or feet up the wall. You can totally do this without a blanket, have your hips down, but if you add a lift, and you just fold your blanket so it's in this plank fold, if you add a lift up underneath the hips, it makes it dramatically more calming. So it's a little bit away from the wall, and you're going to pop up. So your hips are up on the blanket, and what that does is it actually helps relax your body even more. Getting your hips above your heart does all sorts of wonderful things for your body. All right, last but far from least is Savasana. And this is what makes Savasana significantly more comfortable for those of us with lower back tension who cannot lay flat. You do want to be as flat as you can be in Savasana, but if laying flat hurts your lower back, and it does that if your pelvis is tipped up slightly because of tension, it'll cause like a catch right above the pelvis. Blanket makes all the difference. And you'll just take your blanket and you triple fold it so it's actually flat. A lot of people put rolls underneath your knees, but you don't want to do that. You have arteries that run down the back of your knees. And if you do a roll underneath your knee, it actually can cut off circulation to the feet. Slow circulation, I will say. Make it sound scary. Your legs are going to be fine, but you won't be able to relax as much with that going on. So instead, if you take the blanket up underneath the thighs, this was going to tip the pelvis just enough to get that lower back relaxed. All right, I hope this video has helped you understand the benefit of having a blanket in your practice and all the wonderful things you can do with it. Again, I did other videos, so you can check out this one to learn about blocks. You can check out this one to learn about straps. And if you're still sitting there going, I don't know if I really need to have any kind of props, check out this one as I talk all about why people need props and who might not need props in their practice. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do so now. I would love to have you in my community. Click on the bell for further notifications so you know every time I drop a new video. Namaste.